Did you know that life is primarily for laughing, loving, and living? It ain't for whining, worrying, and working. Well, that's the way my next guest, Ed Foreman, lives his life, and that actually is his quote. He went from a farm boy to a self-made millionaire by the age of 26 and a former United States congressman from two different states, Texas and New Mexico. Ed is not a reporter. He lives his message of health, wealth, and happiness that is helping people all around the world get more meaningful living out of life, reduce their levels of stress and anxiety, turn worry into success, and have more fun. A dynamic business entrepreneur and active civic leader, Ed has developed numerous programs and products and persuasively sells the success formula he lives by. Ed Foreman holds the Council of Peers Award for Excellence, the highest honor bestowed by the National Speakers Association, held by fewer than 100 people worldwide, and is one of the only 8 people to receive the Distinguished Faculty Award of the Institute for Management Studies. He received a standing ovation in 2008 as he was honored with the Legends of Speaking Profession Lifetime Achievement Award. Ed has been featured in hundreds of magazines and newspaper articles, including Portrait of Ed Foreman in Dallas Magazine, and more recently, Isn't Life Terrific in the July 2009 issue of Success Magazine. Born on a farm in New Mexico, he is a civil engineering graduate of New Mexico State University, a motorcycle, sports car, and hot air balloon enthusiast, an outdoor adventurer, and an international traveler. Named one of the 10 outstanding young men in America by the U.S. JCs in 1964. Ed Foreman has been a leader in executive development programs since 1960. He is a board member, officer, or major stockholder of a dozen successful corporations. He is co-founder with Erling Vining and president of Executive Development Systems of Dallas, Texas. Ed Foreman travels 200,000 miles a year with partner Erling Vining, sharing his renowned message of successful daily living with corporate executives around the world. Few speakers, if any, are better qualified to motivate, inspire, and educate by their own example than Ed Foreman. Welcome to Cardinal Points, Ed.
My Lord, Ed, that was a powerful introduction. I need to start carrying you along with me. Introduce me. Sort of like the lady that was at the funeral of her ne'er-do-well, dearly departed husband. He was a no good, and the preacher was up there preaching and talking about how great he was. And finally, the lady punched her little boy and said, "Go up there and look in that casket and see if it's your daddy." It's good to be with you, Ed, and to have the opportunity to share on your program.
Well, I appreciate it, Ed. It's great to have you. You know, I first saw you and heard you speak back in October of 2011. Now, I want to just tell this story to the listeners because you had just received, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, a pacemaker about a week before that speaking engagement. It was down in the Bahamas, and I was just absolutely amazed about your enthusiasm. You were jumping around like you were 25 years old, and at that time you were 78, I believe. What motivated you to do something like that?
Actually, it wasn't a week before. It was 2 days before, and I had the commitment to be there and speak, and I still had the bandage on my shirt, and I had to change it on my chest because the blood was coming. The deal, and I had a bypass and a few other things, but I enjoy traveling and meeting and visiting with people. I like the great group that you were associated with the Global Information Network group down there.
Right.
And I find that, if I want to get lifted up, what I do is I help others get lifted up. And that's the way life is. When you help others, you're really helping yourself. When you do what you can to encourage and to assist and uplift, you can't help but spilling some of it on yourself. And so for the past many years, as you described, I've been doing that. In fact, I just recently had my 80th birthday, and people say, "When are you going to retire?" I don't expect to retire. people retire and die.
Absolutely.
I'm going to keep going on and on and on and on.
Absolutely. Well, you have a lot to offer a lot of people, and I appreciate you.
Thank you.
You've led quite a distinguished life, and I was just wondering, Ed, who were your positive influences or mentors along the way?
Well, I had several wonderful people. The closest to me, of course, was a very wonderful, positive mother and a disciplined father who, number one, my mother taught me to be kind to people and to love others. My daddy taught me to work hard. We were talking the other day, and my kids were watching a show on television where they showed horses and harness and guys plowing and such as that. And they said, "Can you believe that they used to farm that way?" And I started laughing. They said, "What are you laughing about?" I said, "When I was a kid, I remember harnessing the horses and walking behind a team of horses all day long, and there was nothing thought about it."
Right.
I mean, we worked. We didn't have money, but we had food on the table, and we lived. And so it's a sense of individual responsibility. I think when people develop a responsibility for themselves and they do more than they're paid to do, they always get paid more. Life is rewarding that way. And so my mother and my father were two mentors, Dr. Norman Vincent Peale of the former Marble Collegiate Church in New York City, who wrote the book, The Power of Positive Thinking, was wonderful. Dr. Ken McFarland, who used to travel sponsored by General Motors around the United States and speak. I listened to all of them. And Dale Carnegie, I went to his class and then later became a teacher in the Carnegie program. And